The Two Hammers Podcast. Hello and welcome to the Two Hammers Show here on Claret and Booze. This show moving forwards will be hosted by either myself, Gary or John and one other hammer. Two Hammers. The clue is in the title. The idea is that we invite somebody else in from the outside to give a different perspective, a fresh perspective on current events at West Ham. If you want to criticise me or John, especially John, or Gary, that's absolutely fine. Crack on in the live chat. But in the live chat, please be nice to the guests. Don't be rude. We're going to talk. We're going to have a chinwag on current events. And then probably the last 10, 15 minutes, we'll do a QA as well, where you can kind of put your questions in the chat and then we'll have a little chat about what you want us to talk about as well. Okay? So I think that's pretty much cleared it up. So let's get on with the show. Hello, everyone, and welcome to Claret and Booze, another Two Hammer Show, episode 3. This week, today I'm joined by Anton from the West Ham Network. Hello, mate. How you doing?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Just admiring your fucking professionalism.
Don't worry, it won't last long. It won't last long. Don't worry. How you doing? Are you okay?
Yeah, not bad, mate. Thank you for having me on. Yeah, keeping well.
Thank you. Thank you for joining me.
Yeah, absolutely, mate. No worries at all.
Good stuff. Right now, for anyone that it's unlikely, but for anyone that isn't familiar with Anton and the West Ham Network, Anton, do you want to say a little bit about your channel?
Yeah, so we've got a channel called West Ham Network. Used to be known as Irons United. Myself and Russ, and now Holly, is part of the team, and the three of us run the West Ham Network. We do pretty much what most West Ham, one of the 40 million YouTube channels there is in existence,
a lot of us, yeah.
Of them, and literally bring just breaking news, transfer information, previews, reviews, do some live chin wags like you guys do as well. And it's just good to have different takes and different faces, and that's why it's important that we all do what we do for the reason we do it, which is, we said beforehand, we do it because we love this club. But we just have a bit of fun, and me and Russ have built up a nice bit of relationship. We're very positive guys.
Yeah, you're positive guys, and like I say, but I think you do balance it out though, because like I say, look, you've got your opinion and your way of looking at things, which I don't always agree with, same as you don't always agree with me. But you do balance it out on your show, because, say for instance, you get Tommy on. You got Tommy who's got a regular slot on a Friday and stuff like that as well. So. It does. There's a voice for everyone, I think. Yeah,
I think we found that was quite important in terms of the channel. You can get so many comments coming in and people going, "Oh, you're just up the club's arse" and all that sort of stuff. But in actual fact, I don't think I am, because if you've ever watched my videos, you actually realize I'm really, really not. But I try and deliver it in a different way. It doesn't mean I'm right. It doesn't mean I'm wrong. But I felt like we had to have a bit of a balance, so having Irish Tommy on is certainly a balance and a half.
Yes, he brought his sledgehammer in with him.
Yeah, he has. But it's good though. It's good, and it gives people a different opinion, and it gives a different voice on it. So that's
and Holly's been a good addition as well. She's really good, isn't she?
Yeah, she's quality. She's like I said, West Ham through and through, really knowledgeable in football and football all round. So yeah, she's worked for the club as well in the past, not anymore, but she's just really knowledgeable, and it's what share the fun. It's a lot of hard work when you do this shit. So
it is. Shame about Russ and his shirts. So I mean, does he ever wear those fucking shirts on your show? Does he? Do you know?
I think.
How have you banned him?
No, Russ has got his own deal with his own deal with Untuck It. He advertises Untuck It, but he's the only recipient of any of the fucking shirts. But that's because I've never seen any of those shirts. Holly's never seen any of those shirts. But equally, though, I don't know if I want to see those shirts. Russ's dress sense is one to maybe miss for a little while.
He certainly sent tongues wagging last week in the chat. He did. I'm telling you, it was funny. It was good. It was all in good. It was all in good taste. So it was.
Yeah, I'm a kind of a plain guy.
So
try and keep it all. Keep it nice and simple.
No, that's it. But anyway, Anton, for anyone that don't know, obviously, as everyone can tell, you're Scottish. You're Scottish.
No, I'm not.
I know, but you've got a Scottish dialect. So
no, I don't. I'm Jamaican.
I know. How did you become a hammer?
Right, so born and bred in Scotland, and my dad has 6 kids with my mum. 3 of them were born in Barking.
That's a big family.
Yes, a lot of us. So 3 of them, my dad's born and bred in East Ham. Went to St Bonaventure School, season ticket holder his whole life when he was down there. Met my mum, and they moved up to Scotland and had 3 more kids up in Scotland, so I'm one of those kids. I've carried on my dad passed the chalice to me. I'm the youngest of 6. And I'm the one that really took to West Ham.
Yeah.
So growing up with my dad, I enjoyed football, and there was no other club for me from birth. And even so, recently we were looking through old pictures before the big final in Europe, and we found a really old picture. I think I must have been like 2, and I'm wearing a West Ham strip. So it's been inbred into me from my dad, and I don't know why he never done it with any of my other siblings, but it just seemed to be, maybe it was like his last chance to keep that candle, going as well. So yeah, he was a hop, skip, and a jump away from the stadium, season ticket holder, witnessed us win 4 cups live. So I've grew up with all the stories, and that's been an amazing journey listening to his stories, until obviously I then had to join that journey and not get the amazing stories.
It's not been as fun for us, is it?
Until
a few weeks ago, it was all right. 2 months ago, that was good.
Yeah.
That was good.
Yeah, it was. I mean, to be honest, the ups and downs, it's mad, but I don't know why. I just wouldn't change it for the world, man. Like for that moment in Prague, for that one moment, and I know Russ was saying to you last week that he was crying on the camera. We had an event.
He was a blubbering mess on camera. He was.
To be honest, to be honest, I know a lot of people, me included, that was also a blubbering mess. I was an absolute disaster, and I didn't realize that was what my emotion would turn to. I thought my emotion would be really loud celebrating, but my emotion it was like that sense of relief.
Yeah.
And I managed to actually say to my Dad, I've now witnessed our club win something. Now you can't just say to me, he was never doing it in a horrible way.
We never thought we was going to experience that. I don't think.
Never.
I think I don't think any of us actually did. Because all we've ever known really is disappointment. We have come close. The FA Cup final. I mean, you don't get much closer than that. But it was like you said. It wasn't even, because you know what it's like. Especially with me, I'm a little bit of a Mickey taker. My normal reaction I would imagine if we was to win something, would be to jump on WhatsApp, start having a go at all the opposition fans and everything else. But it wasn't. I was in kind of a bit of a state of shock, and the next day it was worse. I was like, "Fuck!" I never sort of probed any Arsenal fans or Tottenham fans. I didn't. I was just like, I didn't really know how to react.
You're right. You're right. Like there was 60 of us in a pub that I had hired out, and the emotion just got the most of me, and even thinking about it now, like it's weird. It's like you said, you went into a sense of disbelief.
Yeah.
But for me, I didn't get to Prague. I'd booked everything pretty much to go, but I made the decision not to go on the basis that if I didn't have a ticket for the game, for me personally, it would have killed me not going to the game.
Yeah.
And I did everything in my power to get a ticket, except for pay stupid money. Like I wasn't going to pay stupid money. That part got to me a little bit about why a fellow fan would do that. But that's a whole other debate.
But the thing is, look, it was very, very just the nature of the fact it was a small venue. Yeah. Not many West Ham fans got in there. They didn't.
No, I know.
They actually didn't. A very lucky few did. But I really don't think it mattered. I mean, don't get me wrong. I would have given anything to have been in there and experienced that, because it was probably what we experienced times 10. But wherever you were, that was just the best thing ever. Yeah, it was the best. It was the best thing ever.
It was.
It was.
And we got in really late. Like, so we had all the family there, all the kids got in late, and because I was in still a bit of disbelief, I hadn't looked to see when the parade was. And when I got in, my mate had texted me, said, "Are you coming down?" And I went, "What for?" And he went, "The parade's tonight," because it was like midnight. And I went, "Shit!" So I went straight online, drunk, booked a train. My wife had put the kids to bed, so they were in at 12:30 as well. Booked the first train down from Scotland. So I grabbed my son in the morning. He missed school, and we came down on the train and went to the parade. And that was phenomenal. Like
I wish I'd done that now. I was in such a bad way the next day, mate. Yeah, it was. I wish I'd done. Considering it's only around the corner from me. I didn't really, it's not.
We were on. I think we were on the 8 o'clock, and to be fair, it wasn't too early, but it was 8 o'clock in the morning. It was the first train we left. That Freddie was buzzing, my boy was buzzing, and we just jumped down the train, and we dressed as claret and blue, like we had claret and blue flags going down. People thought we were nuts, but by the time we got to like middle way on the train, then West Ham fans started to descend on the train. So it became a bit of a nice atmosphere on the way down, and then the rest was history. So yeah, that was a great experience. But either way, mate, just witnessing the club win something after, like you said, all the years. The only thing I ever had on my ticket, my tally sheet, if I ever spoke to my dad, was the playoff finals. You know,
Yes.
I was there, I was
Yeah.
there, I was there, Dad. Oh, Dad was like, "Oh, I've won."
It was that night, that picture I got behind me.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
I
V
know. I mean,
Blackpool and
but again, I mean that's amazing. That's something impressive as well, isn't it? You know, there is no bigger prize in football than getting
yeah.
promoted to the Premier League.
No, absolutely not in terms of
There
value.
actually isn't. You know,
Yeah.
but anyway, look, let's get on with some talking points. I haven't really prepared anything for this one because I've been working, so we're gonna go ad hoc, which is normally it's the best way of doing it. I think if we talk about current events, mate. So we'll start before we get to this scattergun and the way that we're approaching things. Let's start at the very beginning. So the season's finished. We've appointed David Sullivan's come out and said we're selling Rice. He's done that, within 24 hours. The director of football is appointed. What were your thoughts at this point? Did you think, oh, this is great? Tim Steidten's coming in. Is going to work amazingly with David Moyes. This is a new start. Or mind you were in denial about Declan Rice right up until the end, weren't you?
Yeah, 100%. I couldn't live with the thought of him leaving, and I felt like just witnessing some of the stuff that was going on, and even being there at the parade and the way he was acting, and I don't know, I was an emotional wreck over it, to be honest. And I'm over it. I'm not over it. I'm 90% over it just now. I'm describing it like the ex-girlfriend I'm a little bit obsessed with, and I keep searching Instagram, and I don't know why I'm doing it.
I'm really over it.
Yeah, but I need to I think I need to unfollow him completely, because I don't know if I can handle it. To be honest,
you're stalking him, are you?
Yeah, I'm not going to lie to you. It took a couple of days later, and I'm like, "What the fuck is it? Why? What am I doing? Why am I searching for him? Like, what the fuck am I doing?" And I just do it. But the thing that pissed me off the most, and I tried my best to just park it when it happened, was David Sullivan, like you said, coming on the radio the next day.
Yeah,
it was really, really angry. So people might not know, but before I did Irons United, I was a little bit part of Hammers Chat, and I used to go on some of their videos before, and I was really mouthy. Quite negative against the board, like I always kind of have been, but I just kind of subsided that opinion on it. So that brought back a little bit of like, why the fuck did you say that? Like, are you trying to? What are you trying to do? Like, it's the first time in this amount of time we've had this great occasion, and we all know what's going to happen, but don't go under mainstream media. Like, just ignore the question. It was
unnecessary, wasn't it?
It was unnecessary.
It was.
And I really don't care what anyone says at that point. It was totally unnecessary. Like,
and the thing is, right? He's one of the best players in the world, or whatever. He's in the Premier League. It's not how you advertise a player anyway. You don't need to do that. You don't need to go on air and say, "Oh, he's for sale." You haven't got to do that.
Well, to be honest, it was more for this is what and everyone knows this. It's more for his ego. It's like it reminds me. That moment actually reminded me. If you remember when we sacked or got rid of David Moyes the first time we brought Pellegrini in, West Ham released a statement on the website, and it was a bit like, "We're doing it because you've asked for it."
Yeah.
And I need to go back and find the article because it's a really interesting article. It's on the West Ham website. It was David Sullivan making the decision, and he was like, he was basically saying, like, you fans have said you don't want Moyes, so there you go. We're not going to give you Moyes.
I remember.
You said,
I remember it now.
And I remember reading the article at the time, and I thought, what a dick! You can't write that because that's you going, and if it fails, it's your fault. Like, passing the blame. And I was like, what are you doing, Sully? Like, you're just management is shit. You might be a good businessman. You might be making shitloads of money. You might be on a yacht with your missus. Don't know what you're doing, but holy shit, man, shut the fuck up. Like, hopefully I can swear, by the way.
Sorry. No, really?
Yeah, I know.
You watch this channel.
Yeah, but that comment drove me insane. But what I tried to do quickly was park that because I didn't want to take away from the moment. And then the more it came up, it pissed me off. Bringing Tim Steidten in, great. But I'm really conflicted on where I think West Ham are going. I don't understand anymore. So that's where I get confused. Because great appointment.
But that's what I'm saying, Jack. It's the way that West Ham need to go. I think you agree. Getting a director of football in, somebody that can drive, drive it from the top. Just so we've got that kind of continuity if and when managers change. Because look, every manager runs their course eventually. They do. So to have that kind of that figure above and below the chairman who can just kind of maintain that, steady continuity throughout the club. So if a coach does fail, he needs to move on. Not the end of the world. Just replace him. It's a good thing. But did you ever for a moment think that this was going to be a good fit with David Moyes?
Right.
based on his,
Oh,
even if you listen to his podcast, you know, the CEO podcast, where he did come out himself
yeah,
and say
yeah,
he doesn't agree with that model. He said
yeah.
he doesn't think it
He-
works.
no, you're right. You're definitely right. A telling point for me was the interview he did after the Alkmaar game, where Fornal scored the goal, and he said
Mm.
he came on this stream, the interview after, and he said, "Listen, we did try something different. I still want to try something different, but it resorted back to having to go back to what we know to get the results over the line." So I'm not trying to say that justified what he was doing,
Can,
and
can,
it gave
can,
me confidence.
can I
Go
ask
for it.
you, what did he try that was different?
I think at the start, when I look back, well, apart from the Man City game, and it took a while, but when
Yeah.
we seen the introduction, say, of, if you think back to that Chelsea game, where we had the goal that was disallowed,
Mm.
and the run of games either side of that,
Yeah.
I felt like we were starting to not click, but we saw a little bit of a partnership build up between Paqueta and Scamacca. I think Scamacca came into the team and got a few goals, not a lot.
They had a
just
few moments. Paqueta and Scamacca had a few moments in games,
yeah,
didn't they?
yeah.
Yeah.
And then Cornet was coming on, and it was
Yeah.
during that kind of occasion where Cornet was becoming an effective player. So whether he wasn't scoring, that goal should have stood against Chelsea. He was winning penalties. People were getting pissed off him because he was going to ground, but he was still winning penalties. He was winning fouls, and we were bridging that gap. So we were unlucky not to get the result against Chelsea. There was a couple of other results that I did believe the whole fine margin comment. You know, I know people get pissed off for that, but it was true. I think that at a certain point in the season there was fine margins, but as the season went on, we started to see the transition back to the shit that we've been used to over the last couple of years. So, no, it wasn't a good fit. It's not a good fit, and it seems to be that it's not a good fit. And it's a little bit worrying because sometimes, you know, I suppose we'll talk about it, but when it comes to the end of no world, the ITK world, I fucking don't have any interest in it whatsoever. I used to, but I don't anymore. I really don't. Because last night was a really good example of that. You had one reporter
Everyone's
saying
giving
bid
it,
was in.
especially with transfers, mate.
Yeah, and it was wild, man. People were just coming out with different shit. And then for me, moving forward as the club, it's like, if we're bringing this in and there is an issue in the background, so if there is this committee and if there is disagreements, then and if Sullivan is leaking that information,
he is, by the way.
So if he is, like, and you're saying he is, then there's a problem not just with David Moyes, it's right at the fucking top. Because if you're leaking it, you've got a problem.
Can I ask you, because there's always a reason. There's always a reason why Sullivan wants a narrative peddled. Now, for me, this smacks of throwing David Moyes under the bus again, like he has done before, where he's done the. And I'm not defending David Moyes by any stretch. For people watching, I'm not. Everyone knows my feelings on David Moyes, but I do think that he's doing. I do think he's doing what he's always done, and he's released that message because he wants to use David Moyes as a firewall. He wants to throw him under the bus.
But I don't understand that.
But the thing is, what I don't. Surely he realizes now that has expired. It doesn't work anymore, because if he's saying that David Moyes is a problem, the fact is, what is the easy fix, Anton?
No, of course, yeah, of course.
What's the easy fix?
Get rid, and move on.
So it isn't even something for him to complain about now. It's not.
But this is what concerns me. It's like, as much as we can't take away from the fact that David Sullivan is a good businessman because he's made a shitload of money.
Yeah.
But in terms of the belief of love for the club, we do have to take into consideration the absolute mangled situation we're in right now. It does not make sense. So taking away ITKs, taking away anything from this scenario, if you're a normal human being looking in from the outside, your instant reaction is going, what the fuck? So I speak to people, because I don't live down there, who are not West Ham fans, and they go, oh, well, West Ham are the only club in Premier League have not signed a player. Holy shit, you've not replaced Declan Rice yet. Why the fuck not?
You've only 3 weeks we've literally sold our best player, and we've not signed anyone yet. It's balmy. And the thing is, mate, how can it be? And this is what really, because don't tell me, because I know Stighton started not so long ago, but he started before that. Okay, he was on gardening leave. We all know that. He's been in correspondence with the club for a long time. There would have been a list of targets that had been drawn up that we was going out there targeting and stuff like that. Why were we not prepared? So, you know, I mean, the thing is, we've known Declan Rice is going to be leaving now for 18 months, maybe longer. We've kind of known that. How can we not have been more prepared with this? You know, it just doesn't make any sense. And And for him to come out now, so he comes out publicly, Sullivan. He plays hardball. 105 million, not accepting nothing less than 100 million. And I want it up front. So he's telling everyone, telling the world, because it's all being played out in the media. Because Sullivan, as you said earlier on, he wants to be Billy Big Bollocks. He wants to make
so bad.
He wants to tell the world that he sold a player for 100 million, and then he comes out and says people want too much money for other players. Now, I'm not being funny, right? People are they're balking. Bear in mind, the money we're offering for players like Polina and Ward-Prowse, if we are, is too much. But any player of a certain age profile, like Gallagher, 23 years old, someone like him, if we're offering 37 to 40 million pound for him, is that overpriced? Yes. But we've just sold Declan Rice for probably 30 to 40 million more than what he's actually worth.
We've inflated
in my opinion.
Yeah.
In my opinion.
Yeah.
So
100%.
it's we have because he's not a £100 million player, not yet. So we have overinflated that. We know he's a great player. He's a great player for us, but I don't think he was ever a £100 million player.
I think when you look at, listen, I think Declan Rice will go on again. I don't want him to. Sounds ridiculous. I don't want him to be successful at Arsenal. Of course, I don't.
He's not going to be, Anton. They're going to flop.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah, but again, looking out in from an outsider's point of view, which we're not, but trying to paying £105 million for a defensive midfielder doesn't make a shitload of sense, really. To be honest, I think Enzo from Chelsea set that standard, but we set the standard for coming from West Ham to a club in England who are willing to pay that money. So unfortunately, we've got ourselves in a situation where we're going to have to pay over the odds. We've got the West Ham Network chat. Everyone's got WhatsApp groups, and the chat going on, and people going, "Oh well, why are we not looking at Fofana?" I think there's a balance between an experience. I do agree with it to a certain extent, and don't agree with it to all of the extent, but. We've set the standard. So Brighton tonight are saying that they only want 100 million quid for Caicedo. 1 year in the Premier League, and he won 100 million quid.
I think it's very simple, the situation that we're in. David Moyes and Tim Stuyton are at a crossroads, as is Sullivan. We know Moyes isn't going to want Stuyton's targets because look, his expertise that he's got is going to be more outside of the Premier League, looking at players that he can bring value to the club, bring him in at a lower price that we can kind of make money on. Yeah. Now, the fact of the matter is, it looks like Sullivan doesn't want to overpay for players, which again, do you know what? I can understand it, but then don't dick around putting in bids for these Premier League players because we're not going to go out and get a bargain in the Premier League for any player that is good enough to come straight into our first team. We're not going to. So you either pay over the odds, go out and pay 50 million for Gallagher and just fucking get it done and get him in. Because like I said before, the only when you're buying a 23 or a 24-year-old, the only kind of sanity that you can put towards the Arsenal bid for Rice is that they could have him for 4 years and then sell him for 100 million again. They could. He's 24. They could have him for 4 years and they're probably not going to lose too much money on him if they sell him again. Not too much, Same with Gallagher. We're not going to lose too much money on that deal. He's a good player. Newcastle are after him. I read Aston Villa are now in for him there as well. Tottenham are after him. He is a good player. Is he worth 40 million, 50 million? No, but then again, I don't think any fucking player is.
Yeah.
But the fact is, if you're running it as a business, you can't go out. That deal that we were looking at with Polina, 28 years old, like I just said, in 4 years' time, Declan Rice is still going to be worth what he's worth now, maybe more. Polina is going to be picking up his pension.
It's the sought after position for most clubs right now. Like the central defensive midfielder, central midfielder is the sought after.
You can't pay 50, 60 million for a 28-year-old though.
No. And I definitely agree with that 100%. But unfortunately, like I said, we've set that standard, and clubs are now going to expect it. So they're willing to. James Ward-Prowse, for example, he might want to move, but Southampton are going to protect that asset as much as they can, and they ain't going to sell him for. They're not going to sell him for ridiculous money. Well, West Ham want to pay.
We're acting desperate now as well. So all of these clubs know that we're desperate. They know that we've got a manager that is demanding that we have a player with a manager with a player with Premier League experience. We're scattergunning. So all of these targets that we're going for, none of them are going to feel special. None of them are going to feel like they're the one. They're all going to fit, because you look at what Arsenal have done with Declan Rice. It was like a years-long thing of them tapping him up, making him feel $1 million. We don't fucking do that. We just go out and we just sort of cast a net out and see which one we can see which fish we can reel in.
And that's a good point, because today, for example, if you were to, I think I've done it last night on a show I did, but today, for example, if you just sat and had, like, say, the Sky Sports News app open, which is the transfer centre.
Yeah.
Literally every half an hour, it was West Ham are in talks with Man United over McTominay. West Ham have had a bid not back for Chelsea's Gallagher. West Ham are in conversations with Alvarez. West Ham are potentially still looking at trying to negotiate with Juve with Zakaria. Then you're hearing about all this verbal offer stuff, and you're like, what? Like, if you're a player looking at this situation, what draws your attention to come to West Ham? If West Ham if you're saying you've got 7 verbal offers out on players, why would a player go, well, I'm not the special one?
But exactly. But also that as well, just to clear that up, a verbal offer isn't an offer. It's not a bid. It's an inquiry. That's what that is. Sullivan phoning up Ted Bowley saying, you're Gallagher. Would you take 37.5 million for him? No. All right. That's not a fucking bid.
Yeah.
That isn't a bid. That's not an official bid. That's what should have been done months ago. They should have been phoning up, making inquiries months ago, not now. And I just, and like I say, so Sullivan's got a choice to make. He either backs David Moyes with his Premier League players that he's going to have to pay over the odds for. If he does that, I hope that David Moyes doesn't get all of his own way and we get players in the right age profile. So players like your McTominays and your Gallaghers, because at least they're younger, players that can then go on to be utilised by other managers later on. Or we utilise the man that we've just brought in, the director of football, that's going out there spotting players like, players like Fofana, and there's loads of others that he's brought to the table as well. Players like that will be, they're potentially better players, they're cheaper. You bring them in, that could be that could be what we do. But then you run the risk you've got a manager that won't use them, or he won't. So what do you do, Anton, in this situation here? I think you've got a choice here. You either back David Moyes or you back Tim Stuyton.
For me, it looks like
I don't think you can't have a bit of both.
No, I don't think you can. But it looks like what they're going to do. I can't see them getting rid of him. I can't help, and I think most West Ham fans feel like the first 6 games are going to be telling for West Ham season again. And if it doesn't work out, you could be looking at David Moyes leaving. And if we give him the money this summer, then that's a bit of a fucking waste of time, really. But I'm putting I don't know what I'm doing. I'm putting faith into something. I'm putting faith into the world of that they know what they're doing. They don't. We know they don't. But I'm trying to hope that they do, because I can't fathom the fact that we're 3 weeks away from the Premier League, and for about the 4
he's still got no coaches, mate. He's putting the cones out himself.
Yeah, but for the 4th season in a row, I'm sitting here and we're still saying, why have we not brought a player in? If I think back to the summer last year, 8 players in.
This is worse. This is the worst one.
I agree with you. This is definitely, because last year we brought in 8 players and we brought them in late.
Yeah.
But we should have brought 4 of those 8 in from the previous summer. And then we wouldn't have had the long-term bedding in period that Moyes expects. So we all expected this transitional season. The big transition this summer, because we knew we had another rebuild. I mean, the fucking rebuild's going to get even bigger next summer if we enter, because we don't know what world we're going down, what route, what trajectory. What is our trajectory? We've just won a European Cup. West Ham are on people's radars.
Yeah.
We've got a bit of money sitting there. Surely to God, after Declan Rice leaves, the next day you announce.
Yeah.
What an opportunity. The missed opportunity. Marketing is fucking awful.
I know.
I've seen something on Twitter today about West Ham advertising the Perth Museum, and I'm like, my instant reaction was, what the fuck are you doing?
I know.
Are you actually cuckoo? Fucking cuckoo.
I'm starting to get really cynical about this window with going back to the leaks, right? Like I said to you, we know where it's coming from. The leaks come from a certain source. But for them to leak the level of detail that they leaked about this committee, the voting system, the fact we've brought, this potentially our first signing, but for them to kind of leak that the one that didn't want him was David Moyes, that's going to get spread. Do they want that to get out, to get to this kid, so he sees that the manager don't want it? None of it makes any sense, really.
It doesn't make any sense.
It doesn't make any sense.
It sometimes doesn't make sense to the point of, is it true? But we believe it's true. It's so ridiculous.
It's fucking gospel true. I've seen the messages. It's gospel true. That where it's come from. So whether or not that did actually happen or not, I don't know. But that's certainly
But the point I'm trying to make is it's so ridiculous. It's unbelievable. And that's the situation we find, and I can't believe that we're in that situation.
It's not unbelievable. I don't think that David Moyes would want to spend £40 million on a player with no Premier League or first team experience.
No, I agree with you on that. Yeah, I do agree.
I don't think he would. I think he'd vote against it. He would, wouldn't he, Anton? If you put
I
that
do
to him
agree.
on a table, he'd go no.
Because I don't agree with it. I don't agree with some of the quite a lot of the decisions he's made. Like, you know, I think missed opportunity not starting Skamaka last year. Why the fuck did he take 4 games to put Skamaka in the team? Like, I don't agree with his decisions at all. Thank you for your memories. I've had really good memories. I was on the side of him of him leaving the club, but I don't understand the mindset of the club right now. It doesn't make sense to me. It doesn't make sense if you're sticking by Moyes, but also throwing him under the bus.
Yeah, I don't know whether they are. I mean, I don't know whether it's because they're under some sort of under the illusion now that they've got to that David Moyes has to really fail before they can justify getting rid of him because he's lifted a trophy. I don't know, but I don't think that is the case with the West Ham fan base. I don't think that there is as much. I mean, there will be malice towards David Moyes again if, when the season starts, it goes to shit. Yes, there will be. But as it stands at the moment, in terms of emotionally, he has more credit in the bank now than what he had before, in terms of the fact that people won't feel as strongly about him. But 100%, the majority of fans wouldn't bat an eyelid if he moved on now. They wouldn't. Yeah. Most fans will go, yeah, okay, yeah, nice one. Nice one.
Yeah. But also, but the problem I've got now is the fact that, and we've got this problem is 3 weeks to go, and I know we wouldn't do it now, but if it was going to get done, it should have been done very quickly after the victory in Prague. Let them have the break or whatever, and then move on forward.
But we wanted to sell Rice, and I'm certain that Sullivan wanted Moyes here for that. Like I said, because we know one thing that David Moyes is excellent at is covering David Sullivan's arse. We all remember that January transfer window where, I mean, I wouldn't surprise me if that wasn't even David Moyes' fault. I reckon you could tell David Moyes to go and make a statement like that if you're his boss, and he'll go and do it because he's a company man. I think he will.
But you can't help but think, like, again, looking at the situation, the world is like, you know, we can all try and predict, and I think most West Ham fans would try and predict what's going to happen over the next couple of months. And our prediction is that we won't do well in the transfer market. Moyes will get his way. He may not start well. He'll leave, and we're looking at Alonso. Whether or not that's true, but the fact of the matter is, if the majority of West Ham fans think like that, then there's a strong possibility that's the way the fucking club are thinking. So why are you doing what you're doing now?
The only rationale behind this lack of activity and the games that are being played at the moment, even is Carlos Borja, right? I mean, I don't know how you say. Is it Borges? How do you say his name?
I say Borges, but I watched someone on some site say Borges or something like that. Borges. Okay. They say the G with the kind of J.
Borges. Okay, we'll call him Borges. So him dragging this deal out, because I'm not being funny, he shouldn't take this long to get this deal over the line. It's 14 million for a kid. It should be done, but they're sort of stretching that out because they're not close on any other deals. We know that they're not close on any other deals. They're still making verbal offers. They haven't actually made a concrete offer for anyone yet. It's absolutely bonkers. So, and when you look how long it takes us to negotiate beyond that, so once a bid does get accepted, then you've got the agents are going to step in. Then they've got to start dicking around with agents and stuff like that. Things drag on forever with West Ham. And
you're right, mate. And it totally impacts your preparation for the season. Like, there's no ifs or buts about it. In any walk of life, it would have an impact on your season in any stage, any job, and anything you do, let alone in football. And no ifs or buts about it. You always need a fresh face. No ifs or buts about it. Doesn't matter if you're the most successful team in the world. You will need someone fresh to come in to whatever to let them know that they're not.
We definitely need fresh faces.
Oh
100%.
Shit, man! We need fresh faces.
We definitely need fresh faces. But look,
the fact of the matter is, we're taking so long, 3 weeks away. Like, I just don't understand why people want to do business early and some people want to do business late, because it stems from the top. In my opinion, it's like the whole Rice situation.
But sort of going back to this crazy conspiracy, right? Because I like a conspiracy. But you're left trying to figure out what's going on at the moment. So your mind starts racing. But say, Tim Stighton started, I'm pretty certain that when Tim came in, he would have been like, look, don't make any changes yet. I want to come in, have a little look what's going on, talk to the players, talk to the manager, talk to everyone. And then when there's issues, we'll fix it. How do we know that Tim hasn't kind of spoken to players, key players that we want to keep, who say, I want to move. I want to go. I'm not happy here. Why do you want to go?
That could be what's going on in the back.
Yeah, but that's what I mean. Moyes. Okay,
Yeah.
they've got this stuff with the transfers. Okay, these are the players that we should bring in for the longevity of West Ham. You know, this is going to build us for next year. Moyes, nah, I want to spend 60 million on Polina. Premier League proven, Premier League proven. How do we know that Tim hasn't said, look, this isn't right, it isn't working? No, what I'm saying is I've identified a problem. That is a problem. I don't know how you're going to fix it right now because, you know, and the thing is the fact we haven't brought new coaches in yet either. We haven't brought new coaches in yet. So it's a very cheap fix.
It's really odd. The whole
So
situation is odd.
So how do we know? How do we know that something like that isn't afoot? Now, whether or not they sack him at the start of the season or they're just going to set him up to fail but not give him any money to spend and save it for the next guy for January. How do we know that? I think it's a dangerous game to play because the first 6 months of the season leading up to January, if we go into it in this state, we could be... It's never beyond repair, but we could be up shit creek, I think, if we start really badly.
Well, I mean, there's a few other concerning things. Sullivan's not even in the country, and David Moyes is in Scotland right now. So, you know, this is not going to get resolved, like, even tomorrow, because, again, we're putting ourselves back. We're in the middle of the week again, and it's just getting closer and closer to this season starting, and we need to hit the ground running. I do think there's a core. I think we all agree there's a core at the club. I think there's a core of real quality there. But again, we're making those fatal mistakes. You look at Paqueta and you think, what's going through Paqueta's head? Like, you know, what is...
Yeah.
If Newcastle, just for talking's sake, if they were genuinely interested and had the money, his head would be turned because he doesn't know anything to West Ham.
Yeah.
So why would his head not be turned? It's a bit like you and me. Like, if a better opportunity comes up that offers us shitloads more money and you're not from the country and you don't owe anything to the club, like you don't understand that. But we should be in the situation where we've just won European Cup and all the players should be going, yes, let's fucking do this, and having the fresh faces coming in and seeing the opportunities and all that. But we're not doing it, and that's what's getting us fans pissed off because it's bringing back the memories. When we get opportunities to progress, we slip back into old habits, and that's what pisses the fan base off. And their messaging, it's like, Nick, it's going back to like when you get the season ticket. Like, I don't beg and shit, whatever, but, you know, I've had a season ticket now for 16 years, and not once have I received anything from the club. Neither have most people who've got a season ticket. And suddenly this year they decided to send something to the fan base because of fan pressure. Like, are you fucking joking me? Like, why? I mean, you hear about the Leicester owners, whether they've gone up or down. I tell you what, Leicester's situation's crazy. They've won the Premier League, won the FA Cup, been relegated, but I'd still happily fucking take that, if I'm being honest, because we would have had a Premier League, Champions League football, and this and that and whatever, and they've treated their fans really well along the way. You know, I'm not saying I want us to be relegated, but it's just, it's frustrating. People don't get the other thing, Nick, as well. If people do watch the channel, people don't really see my real opinion because I fucking host all the shows, so no one ever asks me. So when I get let loose, I go a bit like,
but that's right. I think it's healthy. I think to give your side of things. But the other thing as well, I mean, look, going back to the technical director, I've covered this a few times now. So, you know, he wasn't labelled the director of football. He was called a technical director. They are the same fucking thing. If you go across the continent, they've got different titles. I've read this out already before. A technical director, this is the actual definition of the job, is responsible for the overall management and strategic direction of the football aspects of a club. They oversee the club's operations, including player recruitment, coach development, performance analysis, sports science, and strategic planning. Now, Tim Stuyton is not fulfilling that role at the minute, or he hasn't been given the right to do that because this committee thing is bullshit. So if this is what I mean, if Sullivan has employed this guy, which I find very hard to believe, by the way, I'm still going with the completely nothing backing it up, but the conspiracy because of Sullivan. I'm going with he's a plant. Someone's planted him because there is no way Sullivan would have known who this guy was. And if he'd have known who he was, he wouldn't have been able to have gone and got and convinced an elite director of football to come and work for him.
Yes, odd again. It's odd.
It's fucking odd, right? So, but if he has, let's just say Sullivan has, how is it? He ain't going to stay here. If under these under these conditions, he's not going to stay here and work in this situation because he's going to fail. And if there's a failure next season, he is part of it.
Yeah.
Even if it's not his fault because he hasn't been given the reins to do anything, it doesn't matter. He's part of the problem. He's part of that team.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, you're right. Again, you're right. I mean, for me, I don't know at what point I last week I said by the end of the week we need at least 2 signings in. It never happened. This is the week I'm going. We need at least 2 signings in. If it doesn't happen, then I am going to shit myself coming into the season. But you're right, mate. Going back to that, Tim Steidten brings someone in who's well understood in the industry of what he does. Giving him the job title, technical director, they've obviously created the job description themselves. So no matter what they've given him, it seems to be that him and Mark Noble are on the same wavelength. I think even without having insider knowledge, you could probably guess that they would have a similar mindset.
From what I've been told, they've got a very good relationship.
Yeah. So you can but that's I think, even like looking again, someone who doesn't even follow West Ham could probably see that Mark Noble and Steidten would have quite a good relationship, and David Moyes is the stubborn David Moyes. You speak to Everton fans, they know it. We speak to West Ham fans, have now had him a long time, so we now know he's a stubborn way, and that is what looks like a match made in hell. It doesn't look good, so why are the club going down this route? You're right. Let's bring conspiracy theories into it. It doesn't make sense what's going on, so it only makes you think one other way. And if the one other way is, are they planning something? Are they forcing the hand of David Moyes? Are they, I don't think Moyes is going to walk.
No, he's too stubborn. He won't. I think they're going to have to pay him off. That's what they're going to have to do. They're going to have to sack him, and I don't blame him. I think he's earned his payoff.
Yeah,
he's earned his payoff. If you want to get, why should he walk away from $5 million?
Yeah,
that's pay him. Just get it done. I don't really get it.
I don't get it. But then the amount of times that we've been here and done this and wore the t-shirt with our current ownership, this is the way we're moving forward. Apparently,
yeah.
And whatever happens, I think the first 6 games are going to be telling. And if we do sign players and they are blatantly Moyes signings,
we will sign players. We know we're going to sign players.
And 6 games in, though, he gets sacked.
Yeah,
that will cause.
It's mental. Mate, it's fucking mental, right? If they,
how do you run a business like that?
If you go releasing Lanzini, you go releasing players. Say for instance, like we let someone else, fucking Fornells go, or you let someone else go that. Potentially, another manager that is coming in 6 games' time could have made use of. And then you're giving him money to spend. Unless they're just going to go out and get a like-for-like manager with the same sort of style. I doubt it. I think this Tim Steidten's associated with young, dynamic managers and fast-flowing football. So I would like to think that that's the profile of manager that he would recommend and want to work with. You've got to hope anyway. That's why we all got excited when this guy came in. You look at the profile, the latest manager that he appointed in Alonso at Leverkusen, and he sort of plucked him from nowhere. I know he's a household name and everyone knows who he is, but not as a fucking manager. He was at Real Sociedad B. He was coaching at the time, and he went and plucked him from nowhere. So yeah, I think they've got to put trust in him. I do think that if it's Sullivan that has employed him and there is no new owner, then Sullivan's going to lose his man. He won't stay here.
Yeah.
He won't stay here if he's not careful. And you would like to think that he's, If this, because Tim Steidten's record speaks for itself. If this goes wrong, it isn't down to Tim Steidten. It's down to the fucking club.
Yeah,
there's something's gone wrong at the club. Yeah. Because he's got an amazing record.
In particular this summer, we've had so many times where we need to bounce on an opportunity. So moving from Upton Park to the London Stadium, that summer was the opportunity. We fucked up. Like that summer, we absolutely
massively
fucked up and didn't progress.
That summer when we left Upton Park to come to the London Stadium. That is the most I've ever seen a squad watered down in terms of quality.
Yeah, absolutely. It was all about
so much average shit.
It was so bad. All that sort of shit. And we had, thinking back to that, like Payet and just how fantastic a player he was, and I built a team around him, and anyway, you move on from that, and then we had another reasonably successful campaign the year before the Europa League. In terms of the Premier League, successful campaign, and then obviously the Europe took over the Premier League form, but winning it. So that season was the opportunity, and I don't think we recruited well because we late. Was it not? We got to January, And we didn't sign anyone in the January, did we?
No.
And if I felt like I think we all felt like we were 2 signings away from probably Champions League football. Like if we'd have got those
Absolutely.
2 signings in the January, or 3 signings in the January, come the summer, those 3 signings could have, might not have, but could have got us Champions League football.
See, I think as well. When you look at the World Cup that Payet had, we all know the rumours as to why he left. You know,
Yeah.
we do know that. Personally, I think that's a very convenient narrative that would be good for the club. It wouldn't surprise me if a character like Payet, who is a bit of a combative character, he's got that sort of mercenary tendencies about him. He would have been disgusted at the fucking recruitment in that summer. Absolutely. He'd have been looking around him going, what the... I mean, we all remember that goal, that solo goal that he scored, you know, against Middlesbrough. It was against Middlesbrough, wasn't it?
Yeah, it was.
Where, and prior to that,
7 or 8 of the players.
Prior to that goal, he'd put on loads and loads of chances for his teammates. There was loads. He created loads of chances to the point where it almost went, you know, he went, fuck it, I'm just going to do it myself. He just waltzed through the entire team.
The funny thing is, that was later on in that season. Earlier in the season, we played Watford at home.
Yeah.
That was probably the best first half I have ever saw West Ham play live. That was when Payet done the Rabona cross and Antonio headed the ball in. We were unbelievable in the first half, and then we folded and lost the game 4-2.
Yeah.
And that was the start of the rot. We had Sam Byram at right back. Do you remember that? And
I do.
And it was fucking ridiculous, man. And it was just like, what's happened to this club? And that's when you saw the depth was watered down. It wasn't quality. It was more quantity to try and deal with the European journey that we fucked up in as well.
Yeah.
You know, and then fast forward again, the opportunity, because we qualified for the Europa League, the opportunity then was in that window. We didn't necessarily do that great in that window. And then the opportunity was winning the Conference League. And it's like, what the fuck?
I know.
Progress. Trajectory is pointing that way. So use that opportunity and do it, but they don't, and it's frustrating. And we leave it late, and then bang, like you said, there's a strong possibility, Nick.
Through history, West Ham have never built on anything. We don't, you know, we tend to, but this would be fucking heartbreaking if we allow it to go the way it's looking. I'm worried for next season. Okay, I think if we obviously Antonio, I think he's got to go because he wants to, and he's getting quite disruptive with his podcast and shit that he says. I think he's coming towards the end anyway. If he wants to go, fucking just get rid of him. Let him go.
I think for the as much I like. Thank you, Antonio, for your service.
Absolutely,
you've done really well.
Yes.
Thank you very much. But for the sanity of football at West Ham, you do need to go.
He's given a taste of how disruptive he can be if he wants to be. So I think let him go. But that means that we've lost Declan Rice and Antonio, in a David Moyes system. You'll probably agree the 2 most important players.
Yeah.
You know, Antonio makes it function at the top. Declan Rice keeps it all together everywhere else.
Yeah.
To not replace that and go into next season with David Moyes playing that David Moyes style is terrifying, to say the least. Now, what I'm going to ask you to do before we go into the chat is not give your prediction based on what you honestly feel at the moment. So, how do you feel that this window is going to go and the first 6 games are going to go? How do you give your prediction on how you actually think it's going to play out?
I think it will be a mixture of Premier League proven and young players, but leaning more to the Premier League proven. So if we bring in 5 players, 3 would be Premier League proven, 2 would be not. Yeah. So I think it will be a mix. I do have the faith in that because we will have to bring in players in. So yeah, that's what I think in terms of that.
And how do you think?
What was the next one?
How do you think it's going to go in the first 5 or 6 games?
A lot of people are negative about it because it definitely doesn't look ideal. But I think we've had a lot of bad starts to the season in terms of fixtures on paper. And sometimes we react differently to that. I think it's going to be a mixed bag. I think we're not going to start like we started last year in terms of, well, in actual fact, we probably will start with the same fucking team that we started with 3 years ago. So that could be the problem. But if we get some signing-ins that are supposedly Premier League proven and they get a couple of weeks under their belts, I think it will be an okay, just below mid-table.
Yeah, okay. No, that's fine. And the last one, if we do manage to, I'm cynical on this one now. Carlos Borja, I know everyone's saying it's done. Just a few little details to sign. I could see this one falling through. If we do sign him, when do you reckon he's going to get his first Premier League game, Anton? David Moyes.
2005 season, midway through, when David Moyes is still the West Ham manager, and we're on to our 4th technical director.
I know. It's a shame though, because we've all seen the show reels of this lad, and mate, he is mustard. And do you know something? In how I anticipate that David Moyes is going to play, which is going to be roadblock, counter attack. He's ideal for a counter attack. Playing fucking wide left, like playing on the shoulder. He's rapid, mate. He's so fast, isn't he?
So yeah, he completely is, right. I've got a little bit of a conspiracy theory. Well, not conspiracy theory. I think David Moyes is going to try something different, because I think he's kind of Declan Rice forced us to play a specific way.
I don't buy into this.
Right. And that's fine.
But towards the end of the season, he basically was a central defensive midfielder anyway.
No, he was, but we fed the ball through him at every single occasion we possibly could.
Because he's our best player, though.
Because he's our best player.
Would you rather feed it through Souček?
No, absolutely not. But that's what I'm trying to say, is that forces our hand in a different way. Now, if you have a Gallagher and Paquet, I'm on the mindset.
Oh yeah. I agree. Yeah.
Look, listen, so I'm not trying to say it'll be.
I agree with this much. Okay, let's say, for instance, we go from a midfield 3 of Paqueta, Rice, and Souček to Paqueta, Gallagher, and say Alvarez or McTominay. That's a better midfield.
Yeah,
it is, because Souček, as good as Rice was, we've been a man down for a while in central midfield. I do think I'm not completely dismissing everything that Souček does, although I am, because I don't really. I think he's been figured out in the Premier League, Anton. I think they know that if they press him when he's on the ball, he panics and he loses the ball. He doesn't want the ball either.
I think if he is going to play at all, he needs to be further forward, though. I think that's where, if we can find that Souček's not going, right? I've had this conversation with Russ. Russ is like that to me. Russ has still got this in his mindset that, we get a big bid in, he's going to go. A big bid's not going to come in, so he's not going to go.
No, well, he wants 100 grand a week for a start. Who's going to pay him that?
Yeah, exactly. So he's going to stay, and I think we can utilize him. We can absolutely utilize him where necessary, but not as the main thing. So I think that changes it. And if your question was on Borges, genuinely, would he start? I mean, I think he'll feature. Because he came up on the radar because we were doing so well at the level of youth. I've taken a keen interest in the youth for a long time at West Ham.
Yeah, I know you have, yeah.
I really have. And also my nephew plays at youth level up here, so I've taken a real big interest in it. And when West Ham were doing so well in the youth system, I fully understood that you had a northern section. So Man City were doing well in the northern section of the league. So I kept an eye on them, and then because you search for this stuff, your algorithm starts to show on your Twitter or your Instagram Man City things, which I don't follow, but it pops up on your feed. So then I started seeing interviews with the player, watching the highlights reels of them, and there was the 4 top goal scorers for Man City were in all their levels was Haaland, Borges, another young guy, I can't remember his name, and then the girl, the top goal scorer for the girls team. Yeah. And they've done a really strong interview with the 4 players, showing each other their goals and who they've scored the best goals. And what's really interesting is the way they all talk about Borges, and they're like, oh my god, this boy is like the next big thing. But then
Man City fans are obsessed with him.
They are.
They're obsessed with him.
And then they've been coming.
They're looking forward to seeing him, I think.
Yeah. And the first question my dad asked was, well, if he's so good, typical East Londoner, old school, he's like, well, if he's so good, then why are Man City selling him? And I'm like, well, they've got a fucking £300 million striker up top. Like, they've got £105 million winger on the side, and so his trajectory is going to be a bit tougher than normal, but he's got a real opportunity, plus buyback clause.
I watched the Man City podcast, a channel, and they were talking about this, about why he's being moved on, because apparently they're calling him a generational talent. They reckon he is fucking outstanding. I mean, you've seen some of the players that have left there, Lavia and everyone else. He's been the best in their academy for a long, long time. Yeah. But it's his style. They reckon he isn't suited to the way that Pep plays because he's direct. Yeah, he plays on the shoulder. He's a direct player. Plays on the shoulder, arcs his runs. Probably, I suppose, like Haaland, but without the size. He's very Mane-like. But if you look at the players that they put in wide positions, Foden, Grealish, they're tricky, aren't they? Yeah. Tricky technical players. He's just direct and rapid. So suits us, don't suit them. So we'll be the winner out of this. So and look, at the end of the day, I know they've got a buyback clause, but he's going to have to be some player and performed so well for us. So we'll benefit from that, for them to actually activate that and buy him back. So, and then maybe they'll give us their next young player once they've bought him back,
Yeah. Well, I mean, apparently, if you believe all the rumours, we're linked to about 40 million players, but the other lad, Howard Bellis as well, he looks like a top talent.
Moyes will never ever play a young centre back ever. He won't.
Well, to be honest,
not at the back.
My concern would be not concern. My only caveat to that would be that he may be forced to, because with Zuma, Agerd and Ogbonna as our starting three, there's a strong possibility only one of them will be fit at one point in the season. Mate, we don't have Declan Rice to put back there anymore.
We saw what he did to Elise when he played fucking fullbacks at centre back.
He's the one that really killed me, because I genuinely, we had Tony Carr on actually, and he was like, he bigged them up. He was really shocked. That was the one he was
some
shocked
really
at.
good kids. And the thing that bothers me is we will come into the chat, everyone. We'll just run this one a little bit longer. So we'll come into the QA in a minute. But the X's update that he done, he mentioned the youth players that are going to be going out on loan. Apparently, Mabama is the only one that's being considered to be kept around. They're talking about putting Freddie Potts out on loan, Earthy and players like that. Now, I'm not being funny. If you look, I know that's what used to happen, players, but if you look at Cullen went out, had 2-3 amazing loan spells. Couldn't have done any better. He ended up going anyway. I think if you're not kept around the club and you start getting farmed out on loan, you're out of sight, you're out of mind. You ain't going to make it at that club now. I don't think you are. I think it would be such a shame if we farmed out fucking Freddie Potts on loan.
So I do. Yeah. When you talk about a couple of players you want to step up, Freddie Potts, Mabama, 100%. Yeah. But if we go to the Freddie Potts situation, the only thing that goes against him is the fact that the most hot ticket right now signing is a central midfielder. So the pressure is on for West Ham to. I agree with you 100% because I want to see them feature. I don't look at the Freddie Potts situation as bad as Mabama heading out, because for me, Mabama heading out would be absolutely fucking mental, like absolutely mental. And I agree. I'm the same. I'm pro youth 100%. They need to be given the opportunity. But for me, if Freddie Potts goes, it needs to be at a really good standard, high standard, and that's it. He's no more now. Yeah. Like not Connor Coventry, not doing what Cullen's done. One more loan, that's it. Because he does look good. He does look decent. I've seen a couple of his friendly games, watched him in the youth. He's got that. He's got that vibe of what you're looking for in the midfield as well.
I think so. And it just would be a shame, really. That's all I'm saying. It'd just be nice if we kept, rather than having fucking 4 goalkeepers on the bench, we could have a couple of kids on there. It wouldn't hurt, would it? Even if they're not playing, they're around the first team,
What's interesting is, I don't know if you ever watched the Fozcast with Ben Foster, and he'd done he does quite a lot of the podcast with ex-pros, and a question was asked about, what's your thoughts on sitting on the bench as a young player? He said, I hated every single minute of it. And every moment I had a chance to sit with a young player and say to them, go out and loan. So as much as I disagree with the whole going out on loan, and I would rather players sit on the bench, the players not getting the especially in the Premier League now, I don't know if that is doing them well. Because, I used to think like that until I listened to the Ben Foster thing. And now I'm looking at my nephew and I'm thinking, he's 15, he's getting called up to the first team selection thing. And I'm like, yeah, okay, maybe a loan would do all right, And Russ brought on, what's his chops? Lee Hodges.
Oh, right, okay.
On the channel.
Him and his little black book.
Yeah. And interestingly enough, he was the most sought after young player at the club. But he never got, Frank Lampard got in front of him. Yeah. And I think he said he was happy at one point sitting on the bench, but he thought, do you know what? I want a career in football. I want to look back at my career in football and have 200 appearances under one club. So he had to move. He had to move to do it. So I don't know. I'm okay with them going out, but for me, if it's a relentless amount of times going out, that's a bit strange. I don't see where Freddie Potts comes in this season. I see where Mabama comes in this season, but I don't see where Freddie Potts comes in this season.
Yeah, I don't. No, not under David Moyes, I don't. But I think there's always space. I think there's always space for youth. Trini's mentioned something in the chat earlier on, because there's a lot of people saying they're not ready, they're not good enough, they're not ready. A lot of people would have said that. For instance, if Declan Rice had made the mistakes that he made for us when he first came in under David Moyes, we'd probably never have seen him again. You've got to carry on. Kids will come in, they'll make mistakes. You need to persist with them. And I think that's where they learn. Declan Rice got better through making mistakes and growing and having faith put in him. And I do, because Declan Rice wasn't always this player.
No,
he wasn't always this player. So the thing that gets me, right, looking at the situation that we're in, this is before we go into the chat, the last one, just going to touch on Flynn Downs, because this one really fucking bothers me, okay? Now, he's a bit of an enigma to me now. I can't judge him. I can't say he's not good enough, because I haven't seen him play at the top level in central defensive midfield yet. I haven't. Do you think it's almost negligent, bearing in mind going into a summer transfer window where you're going to be losing your central defensive midfielder? Is it not almost negligent that David Moyes didn't give Downs some time in central defensive midfield just to see if he could step up on the pitch in the Premier League in that scenario? Do you not think he should have? I think he should have done that. He should have done it.
I think he splits the fan base. I think he does.
Yeah, he splits the fan base because he hasn't been given a chance in his position, mate.
Yeah, I know, but do you not think that sometimes when you see a player come onto the park that you can? It's really. I don't say, but can you make a quick judgment? I think sometimes I do. So when you get a special player, for example, like the way that Payet came to the club and was instantly,
but he's a CDM, mate. He's a very simple job that he does.
Yeah, I'm just trying to think of someone in a similar position. Even a Gerd, when he made his, even when he made that little mistake, he was still a very, very good player, and you could see the class oozing out of him. I'm not trying to say that Flynn Downs doesn't have the class. He looks like a Souček replacement, in my opinion. And
this is what I'm saying to you. We've got Souček playing week in and week out, and we couldn't have given Downs a game at CDM.
I mean, I've got no argument against that, because there's been a time where we had no defenders because Alessi was sitting there to get started.
The other thing as well, and this is the thing, you can't judge him based on him playing a number 10, because he isn't a number 10. You can't judge him based on him playing wide right, which he's done before. You can't, because he's played his entire career as a CDM. He's a safe player. He does things the right way. He recycles the ball. And I think we heard it was Mark Noble said when he made his step up to the first team, he said he literally started doing things on the pitch that he didn't even know he was capable of.
Yeah.
See, some players freeze and they die and they get worse when they get given their chance. Others go up a fucking level. Yeah. I think with a player like him, if he'd have been shown a bit of faith and it'd have been backed, because that's the other important thing, is a manager showing their faith in you. You back them, especially coming into a window where he's going. Now, look, I think a lot of people are split on Flynn Downs, because we're all thinking he must be shit.
Yeah.
But I don't think that is the case.
No,
I
don't think he's...
we know he was a Warburton signing.
Yeah. Yeah.
He was.
I certainly don't think he's shit at all. And I agree with you, because again, so many times last season and the season before, when we had players injured, I brought it up there just 2 minutes ago with Alessi. I think, was it Chelsea? And we were struggling for defenders, and it was like a shoe-in that Alessi was going to have to play, and he didn't play him.
Yeah,
and he just did not play him.
This is the thing here. Like Hammers Mikey's just said, start putting your questions in, people, as well. Like Hammers Mikey says, Downs always passes sideways and backwards. However, this is probably down to Moyes telling him to play that. Mate, it's not. A central defensive midfielder, he's a number 6. He's a traditional number 6. A central defensive midfielder, their job is very simple. It's to sit, it's to protect the back line, and to recycle play and to control the tempo. They do pass sideways and backwards. They maintain possession. You don't want your CDM trying to play fucking through balls and weldy passes all the time. They don't do it. They give it to other players. They win the ball, and then they give it to the other players, the more technical players in the team. Their job is to do all the dirty work and let the other players look good. That's their job in that role.
Some of the best players in the world that we've ever watched have been like, people totally underestimate sidewards and backwards passing. Like, it's funny, because I think someone done a clip of Rice's debut in a fucking friendly, doing that, and they were like, ha ha ha. But in actual fact, it was like, well, he's done his job, what he's had to do. But these players need to have the ability that when there is an occasion that they can ping the ball forward. Xavi Alonso was a prime example of someone that could do that. He got stuck in the middle of the park, and then out of the blue,
that's a deep lying playmaker. But people were talking about fucking Polinia for 60 million. That guy passes sideways and backwards.
Yeah.
He does. Yeah. He don't run with the ball. He passes sideways and backwards. He's just a good tackler.
Yeah.
That's what he does.
Yeah.
He's one of the best at it. Right. Let's go into a few questions. So, man, don't giver. Anton's thoughts on the Rice situation now that he's gone to Arsenal and said all these amazing things about them, even though he apparently loves West Ham. he's not going to get a clap from me. Go on, what are your thoughts on this?
I was never enamoured by him leaving to go to Arsenal ever. Didn't want it, no interest in it. And the minute he left, and the minute I seen a video of him saying, "I'm North London now," just because he's captain the club, I don't hate him.
Yeah.
I just count down the days till he leaves the fucking club, and then I can look at him and go, "Thanks for your service again." But that's it. Yeah, I don't know where I'm at. I don't want to say something that I don't mean, but equally though, I don't want to say something that I don't really know what I'm going to say about it. I'm not enamoured by Arsenal. I'm not enamoured by him going there. I'm not saying about staying at West Ham. I swear to God, I think I would have accepted any club out of London within reason, and preferably abroad. I would have accepted Man City.
Yeah, because mate, I would have, because then, do you know what? Then it's not as much of a kick in the bollocks, because it's not even just a London club thing. He's going to the best team in the world. We can justify that in our minds. We can. But what Arsenal are is a project.
Yeah.
They are. He's left one project for another. Fair enough, they're more exciting. But fuck me, that is a kick in the bollocks, because they haven't won anything. They've never won the Champions League. He kept on going on about Champions League winning trophies. They've been in it 19 times, never won it. Yeah. If you want trophies, you go to. I mean, I'm very grateful to Pep Guardiola, because you do know, everybody knew that he only wanted to go to Arsenal, and you know they only jumped in just to fuck Arsenal up, didn't you?
Yeah.
And they helped us out. They pushed that price up. That's what they did.
Yeah. And I think, with the Declan Rice situation, it's just a shame. It's a shame it happened just after us winning the fucking cup as well, because it would have been nice just to not be like, you don't want to lose your captain after that. So
No, I know. But it's so what we got here. We got a good manager would have made Downs suck the skills and game management out of Rice. That's a good thing. Would you not have liked to have seen Rice and Downs playing together last season?
Yeah, but there was many other things I would like to have saw as well that happened.
But you know what I mean? Because he's more technical. He can pass the ball a little bit more,
100%.
maybe. And the thing is, we might have benefited a little bit more from that, because look, Rice is decent going forward, carrying the ball. He drives the ball forward. Maybe we could have got more out of it, you know?
Yeah. No, I agree with you. Yeah, definitely. Yeah. But I mean, listen, at one point when Souček's struggling, you start to get confused at why he's still playing and not getting rested and all that sort of stuff. So yeah.
Yeah. Right. Snazzy Azzy, question for Anton. What is the hardest thing about running a YouTube channel?
It used to be hard because it used to be stressful, but it's not stressful anymore. So I don't know what else to say. Do you know what? I said to you, Nick, beforehand, and you're probably the same as me.
Yeah.
You love West Ham so much that it gives you an excuse to keep talking about it.
Mate, do you know what? I used to waste the same amount of time on Facebook and Twitter, fucking with me thumbs. You know, all I do now is I just jump on screen. It's not really, in terms of time application, there's no difference really.
Yeah, 100%.
But I think if I didn't enjoy it, I wouldn't do it. It's as simple as that.
No. There's been several times in the past that I haven't, but now I do. And
and that's
it's never. I think. Do you know what? I stand by this, and I still stand by this. I never let the channel affect the love of the club.
No,
never, ever. It never even enters the world. That's why I always get slagged off when I do the match day lives, because I don't engage with the chat, because I can't, because I'm watching the game and someone tells me they've scored, so I can't pay attention to the chat. So I'm just too busy watching the game. So
it actually winds me up. That actually pisses me off. Do you know? Because I've tried to do a few of those watch-alongs. That's why I can't do it. We tried to do a joint one where Gary's watching the stream. I've always got the slowest fucking stream.
You need to have it all synced up. You need to have it all
mate, it's so annoying.
We did have that set up all perfect for about 2 or 3 years, but it's gone.
Can't do it. It does my head in. I'll do the odd one, but not and plus I get so involved in the game, I find I probably wouldn't be very good at this for that, because I just watch the game.
Well, no,
I'm not a good commentator.
Yeah, so last year in particular, we started doing the matchday lives more because I knew I wasn't going to be as many games last year because we just had a newborn. So I committed to pretty much doing most of the matchday lives. But before that, I was going to quite a lot of games, so I couldn't do it. And this year, the plan is to try and get to a few more than what I have been. But I'll still do it. But I've always spoken. So I speak through a game, even under my breath.
So you commentate anyway.
So I commentate anyway. So it was for me, it was a no-brainer. It was like, set the camera up, put the camera on. You know, the only thing that I struggled with was like having to change the if someone scored on the screen. But I'd always make sure, like, I was watching the game, seeing the highlight or whatever, and then try and change it and stuff like that. But it's just, you know what? It's good fun. It's good fun.
Right, next one. Right, the plant of Stuyden doesn't make. What's that? The plant of Stuyden doesn't make sense. Oh, okay. This is the okay.
Going back,
Doesn't make sense. Why would Sullivan not want a bidding war, and why wouldn't owner strengthen the club before buying it? Unfortunately, I think this is no. The plant would be, Jonathan, would be if the deal was already done and dusted, but they're waiting for gold shares to be released from probate. That's the only way that a new owner could plant somebody else. I'm not saying this is some unofficial thing, because otherwise Sullivan wouldn't allow it. This would be that there is an unofficial sale that's gone through. It's all been done. And basically, Declan Rice was being sold. It's 100 million. If the valuation of West Ham is 800 million, that's an eighth of the value of the fucking club. Yeah. It would make sense certainly if it was me, I would want to put someone in there to say, make sure they don't fuck up with that money.
Yeah.
You would. Do you agree with that, Anton?
Yeah. I mean, listen, there's so many. I mean, even looking at the end of that comment, I think this is Noble's trying. I mean, there's so many theories here. You know, Noble could be doing some. Noble might be after the job. Who knows? Like, he believes in the project so much that Stuyden's doing. It could be Stuyden might even look at Noble and go, "Do you know what? There's your next boss sitting here, right now." I'm just, it's conspiracy theory, but I'm just, throwing it out there.
Yeah. So, Papa Firth, question: if you was chairman, what would be the first thing on the agenda on your first day, I suppose, from now? And do you believe Stuyton is brought in by new owners? That's a good question. So you just come in. You've just taken over from Sullivan. You've adopted this mess. How do you fix it, Anton?
I don't like saying it out loud, but I'm going to say it out loud. I would thank and release Moyes from his duties.
Yeah.
That's not me being like, that's me just being thankful for what you've done. Great. Let's leave in a high. And
it is the obvious. It is the obvious thing, isn't it?
And you're right, mate. The interview he did with that guy, he talked a lot about the retirement. He's not fearing the retirement side of things, or he's not fearing the sack. I just didn't like that as well. So as much as we don't like what Antonio's doing, that timely interview wasn't great. But equally, though, it wasn't up to him to put it out. The guy put it out. Steve Bartlett put it out at the right time, didn't he? So
no, I know. So we've got Trini Hammer here. So he says Noble would be an excellent manager. I think he would as well. I mean, look, I don't think there's any coincidence that we did start to pick up in January when Noble was reintroduced, because there were when they do those tunnel cams.
Yeah.
He was seen before virtually every game coming out of the changing room before kickoff. Yeah. He was in there, and
a major part.
He was definitely missed, and it's no coincidence because Declan Rice was struggling like fuck at the start. So having him back, having Noble back would have helped.
Oh, they said that though, didn't they? They said that when they brought him out, and even on the West Ham website, to bridge the gap between the players, the coaches, the ownership, everything. He's there to do that job. In theory, it's like he's a second manager, really, probably. So I mean, I said it today. I think it was actually maybe to Russ. I said, or I don't even know if I said it to you in the chat or whatever. I can't even remember, but part of me does in the background think that maybe Noble and Stuyden are understanding each other, and that could be. It might not be Alonso. It could be Noble. Like genuinely believe that there's an opportunity there for that.
Yeah. I think so. Right, Eddie O. Given Moyes' prevalence of winning matches when his job is on the line, he's a fucking expert at that. Do you see him getting sacked before the winter transfer? It is a good one. That's so sort of building on this. The 3-game thing where he's got one game. How many of those do you reckon? How many of those hurdles do you see David Moyes jumping and clearing this year? Because I think he's got at least 2 or 3 left in him. He is fucking amazing at doing that.
Yeah, I think the first 6 games are. That's it for me. That's it.
Yeah.
You can't. In my opinion, you can't be. Was it after the Crystal Palace game? It was the Fulham game. Was a must win for Moyes.
Yeah.
So he won it.
Yeah.
Then he had that next hurdle, and then he won the Conference League. But you're telling me if he goes 6 games and doesn't win them, he's still in a job? No way. He can't be.
I know. No, I don't think so. Right, I'm going to answer this from Hammer89. So he says, would you appoint Noble as manager if Moyes went? It probably would be the right thing to do if he was going to do. I don't know whether I'd want to, because when Noble is at the moment, and especially as time goes on, I'm sure that's why he hasn't gone into management, is because it's a short lifespan and eventually they fail. I think it would almost be a shame to do that to Noble. I wouldn't mind him doing a caretaker job when we're in trouble, Trevor Brooking style. But I don't know whether I want to. I don't know. I'm not too sure whether I'd like him to be manager.
Do you know what? Simply, if he's good enough, then why not?
Yeah.
He gives me the vibe that, apart from looking at his tactical history in terms of coaching, because we don't know.
Yeah.
In terms of everything else he brings the vibe of what all the modern day managers look like and act like, and give off that vibe. And if everything we believe is true, in terms of he's sitting there and he's like, yeah, him and Steiden are hitting it off, and Steiden's the way they want to move forward, I just can't help but think that Noble's, and you're right, mate, it could be a case of if Moyes goes, Noble comes in as the caretaker with the option to take over should things work out.
Yeah.
It's just options.
And the thing is, like we say, behind every great manager is a great number two and a great coaching staff. So providing, we know he's got a relationship with Steiten, providing he got a fucking good team with him, an experienced team with him, it could be a success. You know, that's the most important thing. He does strike me as a guy that he's a bit of a team player. He doesn't want to do it all himself. He would listen to people. That's really important. I think, especially when they're starting out. But this is the other one as well. Do you see Moyes going before the season starts? Well, look, this is the thing. I don't know. This is weird. This is a really weird situation. The fact all these messages are being peddled around, you know, they're already sort of throwing him under the bus and blaming him for the lack of transfers. And it's probably all true. He probably doesn't want the players that are being suggested. But the fact he hasn't got a coaching staff in yet. It's the cheapest fix in the world. He hasn't got to get rid of coaches, you know, because if you bring a new manager in, why would you recruit coaches now? You wouldn't, would you?
It's tough. That's a tough question to answer because most people should say no.
Yeah,
but because of the situation we're in, we're starting to.
I don't think it's an impossibility. I think it's unlikely. I think it's unlikely,
extremely unlikely. But I'm not denying it could happen. Yeah.
I think the longer it goes without there being coaches there, I'm going to start to think, hang on a minute, this
it's just a bit weird.
This ain't right. It's not right.
It's totally not.
You know. But anyway, I'll tell you what we'll do, mate. We'll close this up because it's an hour and 16 minutes now. So thank you everyone in the chat for watching. Really good show, Anton. Really enjoyed that, mate.
Yeah, cool. Thanks very much for having me on.
Thank you for everyone. When are you next on?
Probably of every hour of the next week. So I have no idea, mate. It's all pretty.
Updates.
Yeah, it's just pretty relentless. So yeah, just whenever, I don't know, just whenever there's news. We do the daily shows, we do the Hammers headlines and stuff like that. So yeah,
good stuff, mate. All right, well, everyone, thank you very much. Really enjoyed that chat, Anton. Cheers, mate, and we'll see you all soon. Go you Irons.
Yep, come on, you Irons.